Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Motivational Millennial Podcast. Today we are talking with Erin Mays, co-founder of the innovation and design consultancy, the Ebco. And we wanted to share with you in this quick intro that in 3 days we are going to be delivering our first entrepreneurial success program in North Carolina.
Woohoo!
To 150 high school and college students. And the whole idea of it is to help students own their inner story, to get gritty, and not to do it all alone. And Ivy, maybe you could tell a little bit more about the goals of this program.
Well, yeah, essentially, we want to help future entrepreneurs and freelancers and business owners to have a whole additional set of skills. They're learning a lot in business programs and business schools, but we want to support them on their personal development and their inner journey and make sure that they're really prepared and fortified in that way.
Yeah, because one of the things we've heard a lot on the podcast from our guests in all different fields, but especially entrepreneurs, is that the people you spend time with really help determine your path and your trajectory in life, and that owning your inner story, so recognizing and deciding on the story you're going to tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of, helps you persevere when the inevitable challenges arise. And that's what Get Gritty is all about, to stick with it and have that faith and that vision in the direction that you're going.
Yeah, and the goal is really to prepare these future business owners and future entrepreneurs so that they can not just start their business, but keep going once they've started and create a successful business.
Yeah, because we all hear the statistics about how many businesses fail or shut down within the first 5 years. And of course, the other statistic is that if they do manage to keep going past 5 years, they tend to be more successful on the whole because of that. It's like this kind of mental and business fortitude that keeps you going even in the face of all the things that come up in the first 5 years of any business are the kind of things that are going to help propel you and make you more successful in the following years.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would love to share this program with you if this sounds like something that you would be interested in having at your school, university. Please go to motivationalmillennial.com/programs and you can learn a little bit more about what we have to offer.
And with that, we hope you enjoy our conversation with Erin. Stick around after the interview for the after show where Ivy and I will share our biggest takeaways.
Woohoo! Hello, welcome to the Motivational Millennial Podcast, where we talk with inspiring members of the millennial generation who are living life with a sense of purpose and achieving their dreams. I'm Ivy LeClaire.
And I'm Blake Brandis.
Our Motivational Millennial guest today is Erin Mays. Erin is co-founder of Ebco and is a design strategist and researcher with deep expertise in innovation and product design. She specializes in leading comprehensive research programs using an array of methodologies, including in-depth interviews, ethnographies, collaborative work sessions, and usability testing. Erin has worked with top clients such as SC Johnson, Ziploc, P&G, and Samsung, among many others. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And we'd love to hear more about what you're up to and what you love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that intro. I have a company called Ebco, EBCO. Sometimes people ask us what that stands for. And originally it stood for nothing. We wanted to create a name that sounded in line with what startups these days sound like, which are just fun, quirky names that no one really knows where they came from. And after a while, we realized maybe it should have some meaning. We put some thought around it. And now it has come to stand for Every Business Has Challenges and Opportunities, EBCO.
Ooh. Oh, that's great. I love that.
So I started this company with my business partner, Kaylin Rosansky. We're in our third year now, and it's a trend and consumer insight firm. We work at this intersection of what consumer desire is, what consumers are requesting and needing out there based on insights and our observations, but also what is trending in industries, both inside our clients' industries, but external to our clients' industries, like different factors that are changing the way people are thinking about things, changing the way people have expectations of the businesses that they interact with and that they patronize. So really combining that trend and future forward insight with the consumer insights that exist and helping our clients come up with new business models, new products, new services, whatever it is that they're trying to innovate on or do next in their business. And that's what we focus on in our company.
That's so interesting. And what kind of industries and projects have you been working on recently?
Yeah, great question. So recently, without giving too much away, we work with perhaps the most well-known coffee retailer in the world. You've all been there. You all know their cup. And
nice.
That's a client that we've had for over a year now. And we continuously go there and host workshops and do really fun programs with them and think about what's next in that department. We also work with a really large pharmaceutical and healthcare company, which we love. We've worked in beauty. We've worked in baby. We've worked in building, agriculture, across all kinds of industries. And that's what keeps us inspired and going, is because everything is interesting to us. And now more than ever, every industry impacts every other industry. So working in coffee and then working in agriculture and working in baby and then working in grocery or whatever it might be, studying these people and understanding how they interact across industries is what is so powerful for influencing what our clients do now. It's not about just understanding their industry anymore, but seeing how the influences in other industries can really impact the expectations of their consumers and allow them to do something unique and different. And the most obvious example that we like to give to our clients is thinking about how Uber and Lyft have really changed the transportation industry, and thinking about that business model and then overlaying it into the grocery space or into the baby space or into all kinds of other spaces and thinking what that would look like for them. And they have those aha moments where, oh, I see what you mean. I see why looking outside of our category is so important for understanding customers' expectations now, whether it's instantaneous gratification or the lack of having to interchange with money, pass money along, whatever those details are that we can extract from the things that people are doing, become really powerful inspiration for our clients to think about what they should do next.
What kind of insight that you can share that has surprised you at some point when doing this work? Like, I wouldn't have thought that matters so much to people, or that even exists as a thing people care about.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we live in this digital world and people are very connected. And I wouldn't have thought that having that thorough integration of the digital experience while still requiring that person-to-person and that high customer touch point experience would be so equally weighted to people. We often think that nowadays people like everything to be fast and seamless and done through a technological or digital interface. But really, we've seen so many people still want a hands-on experience and interaction with companies that they interact with. And where we've seen that come to life is companies that have started online, of course, now have these stores that people can go in and actually interact with the products. So for instance, if you think about Birchbox, the subscription service that people could just go online, order it, comes to their door, it's fine. But then they opened up the Birchbox store in New York. So people go in and actually fill in their Birchbox. So it's almost going backwards again. So I think until we get too hyped in a certain space and think that things are so amazing and that we've reached this technological peak, we still need to reflect that humans are human and there is that human element for touch. And we try to bring that full circle with our clients to make sure that we're taking that all into account when we're thinking about what they should be doing next.
As you're talking, I'm really hearing values around innovation and creativity. And there's also something about empathy, like really understanding the consumer experience to the point that you're like putting yourself in their shoes and you can really create an experience that's the best for them.
Yeah, that's spot on. It's all about empathy. And, empathy has been discussed a lot in my field of work, whether it's design research, design strategy. My background is in anthropology. I have an anthropology degree from UCLA. I also have a design degree, and I happen to have an MBA in design strategy. And all of these things talk about empathy. And empathy goes way back in the innovation and industrial design worlds, it sounds like it's so long ago, but into the 90s when IDEO was starting and empathy was huge. And what happened was the way the industry transformed a bit was you still want to go out and have that empathetic view of people and what it is like to be in their shoes and what they desire. But even pulling back and seeing the trends now and how the world is shifting so fast from a technology standpoint gives us a new perspective. So it's that overlap between understanding the empathy, but also these technological drivers that are shaping the expectations of people. So seeing it from both sides is quite an interesting lens that we use.
What attracted you to doing this?
What attracted me the most was that I didn't know it existed before I found my career. So going back a little, I mentioned that I have an anthropology degree and a design degree. And when I was studying these at a traditional school at UCLA, I was asking my professors in anthropology, I love studying people and understanding cultures, and I love traveling, but I also have this design degree. What's the application for anthropology in this field? And they were like, there is no application. In anthropology, you need to stay true to observing people without having any influence on them. And I absolutely respect that aspect of the discipline. And then on the design side, I said, well, okay, I also like to study people. What can I be doing? And the design professors there were very focused on the craft of design. So mixed media arts, the use of the computers. I mean, this was like 10 to 15 years ago. So things were just coming up in how everyone was using the computers to design things. It wasn't as easy to make websites and things like they are now. And so we were really studying these different avenues. And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I still feel lost. And then finally, through all of this Googling and self-searching myself, I came across the IDEOs and the Cheskins and the Adaptive Path back then, and Frog Design, Smart Design, these different companies. Like, oh my gosh, there's this whole world out there for people like me. And that drove me. I was like, I have to do this. This is what I want to do. And I started in the agency world, working in innovation firms, as a design researcher and working closely with designers. And I loved it. And I just knew that one day it was going to be up to me to have my own business. I absolutely wanted to have my own business. And before I even knew it, my boss at the first company I worked with had told me, he's like, you're going to run your own business one day. And I was like, okay, I don't know when that'll be, but sounds great.
Yay. And look at you now. Yay. That's great.
Yay, I'm doing it.
So, Erin, what's the biggest dream you've achieved so far, and how have you had to grow to achieve it?
Well, it goes through the different stages. I mean, my first biggest dream was to get into UCLA, and I shocked everyone by getting in because it definitely wasn't based on my grade point. It was some kind of combination of a design portfolio and some universal powers at work. So that was my first, oh my gosh, I did this. And then landing that first job and being in the industry I want. And then the latest dream to achieve is really getting the business off the ground. And, when I first started the business with Kaylin, my business partner, we thought, what differentiates having a business versus being a freelancer? Because, there's a little bit of overlap there, and it's so much more. I mean, owning a business is quite different than being a freelancer. You, in fact, have to stretch and grow all these muscles that you didn't even know were required. I mean, things that I'm not even into at the most basic level, like rules and regulation and taxes and balance sheets and HR things and, how people get paid and all that kind of tracking stuff that's absolutely boring. But then the growing and transformation that comes from your mindset when you start to pay people and clients start to depend on you, you really have to have this inner confidence that goes beyond just knowing that you have the skill set and that you're capable. But it's this idea of letting go and just going with the flow. You basically have no control over what outcomes are going to be. You don't know if a client is going to, lose their entire budget and not be able to move forward with you. You don't know if an employee that you've hired is going to show up on time. You have to really relinquish control to the way things are going to unfold and be okay with that. And that is owning a business. That's being an entrepreneur. It's really working on the mindset and knowing things that are possible and knowing that they're going to work out. You just don't exactly know how. And you have to be comfortable in that zone. And it can be a really crazy zone if you can't get out of your own head and you can't stop spinning. And I think that's one of the benefits of having a business partner is we've really noticed that when one's falling off a little, the other feels fine. When the other's falling off a little, the other feels fine. And that balance has been golden for us. And one of the other things that I've really had to grow from when we started the business is losing business. So putting a proposal out there, and when someone says no, not saying, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with me and what's wrong with our process? And are we not offering what they wanted? And where did we get this wrong? And actually saying, you know what, let's just let that land in the space around us. That project's not going through, onward and upward. And now that we've mentally decided that we are not going to worry about outcomes, it's completely changed how our business works. It's all about the effort. It's all about the action that we take. And this has changed everything for us. And the universe has been responding in amazing ways.
It sounds like such a powerful result that you've been achieving. And I'm wondering how, on a maybe daily basis, do you reinforce that focus on, it sounds like, process more than outcome?
Yeah, exactly. It's process more than outcome. We've taken steps to make sure that we're always thinking in that vein. And that includes a specific list of business development tactics that we get to choose from each day. So there's about 10 things on the list. And as long as we do some of them for a certain amount of time and we're taking action on the business to grow the business and to keep going in the direction that we want, we know that we can stay focused in that lane. If you let it sit and you don't take action and you're not working on the business and in the business, then it starts to fester in your mind like, oh my gosh, are we going to get enough business? Are we going to be able to keep up? We become dependent on the proposals that are out there and getting those yeses. But if you take enough action every single day and you have that power in your mind that you know things are going to work out and you stay in that zone and you talk it out. I mean, it's almost like therapy. Like when you have a concern, you let it out, you let it flow out of your mouth and go out into the sky somewhere and then get back focused. You don't want to just like sit there and contemplate things in your own head. So it's about taking action on the business, letting those processes flow, making sure we tap into them every single day and don't get caught up in talking to ourselves in our own heads. That's the worst. Entrepreneurs can spin out of control in that zone. And the other thing is being fine with failure. I mean, that sounds so obvious and that gets tossed around now, is being okay with failure and allowing yourself to do something wrong and learn from it. But it's the truth. It's just a straight truth. It's just, I can't even recommend allowing yourself to fail more than anything. The failure might hurt and it might be a bummer, but the wisdom and the learnings that come out from it are monumental. It's tenfold what you would have known if you hadn't failed and had succeeded at that one small step in the first place. And that learning is so powerful and so monumental that you can do 10 more things that you never even thought possible by just trying things. And then the last thing that we always focus on is working quickly. So not making a decision about something is a decision. You've decided not to do something, or you've decided to not decide. And I think people get confused about that. So, are we going to go to that conference? Are we going to invest money and go do that business development meeting in another country or across the nation, and that's going to cost us $5,000, $10,000 to invest in whatever it is? Are we going to do it or not do it? Saying, oh, you know what? Let's think about it for the next 2 weeks. And if we get another project and we have enough money, then we'll do it. That was a decision to not do it for 2 more weeks. And that cost you money. So being decisive and deciding that you're going to take action and go for it is so powerful. And that's another thing I would just tell everyone to do is make decisions. Are you going to start a business? Then start the business right then. Invest. Are you going to go fly somewhere? Are you going to take a chance with this client or with that employee? Make the decision. And then if it doesn't work out, you've made a step forward. And then you can make a decision about what you're going to do next. But by making no decision, you go nowhere. And it's painful to go nowhere.
Is there a decision that you've made that felt really risky and on your edge at the time, but that has immensely paid off later down the road?
Yeah. So we did have an opportunity, this is back when we started the business, to invest, what was substantial for us at the time in the tens of thousands of dollars into a business opportunity by doing a project for a client for free. And so we call it an investment project. And we were like, okay, should we do this or should we not? And we're like, you know what, let's just do it. Let's put the cash that we have. Let's run this whole program. Let's hire the resources that we need. Let's make it amazing. Let's design the deliverable, host the workshop, do the whole thing. And we did it, and it cost us, but they loved it. It led to so much more work with that client, but it also served as a case study to then go get more clients. And it was all just us sucking it up early on and taking the money that we really didn't have and just going for it. And we both aligned on it, and we went for it, and we're just like, wow, we cannot believe that worked. And I can't even tell you how the investment paid off. You couldn't even track it because it's like, someone met a celebrity and let you in on a job and you forever could say, oh, I know the celebrity and they love me. They're like, oh, really? They love you? Then we're going to love you. And then it just goes from there. So it's pretty incredible. I'm really happy we made that decision. And then I would say the other biggest one was concretely deciding that I was not going to go for a job again. After the last one didn't work out, just deciding, okay, now's the time. Let's do it. And, making that decision to not put your resume out there and not go on interviews and not just leave the workforce almost. That's a crazy decision to make, especially when you have kids and responsibilities and bills. And But the decision, again, it paid off and I'm so glad. But it was about being decisive. If you mull that over for a couple months, you'll be hurting.
And I really hear underlying everything that you've been talking about so far in this last little question is this faith. Like there was always this faith and this hope, that it's going to work out. Like you were saying, you just got to believe it's going to work out, but you just got to release how and what exactly that looks like.
Yeah, that's spot on. There's no way for me to even track how things worked out. I can't even explain it. It's not replicable. It's just, you have to know that they're going to work out. There's not a linear path. There's no rule book. And, you can get all the advice or whatever the opposite of advice is that don't do it from as many people as you want. And it's, there's things here and there that can help you, but it's inside your stomach. It's inside your gut that allows you to do it. You have to stomach the ups and the downs and the decisions that you make. You have to stick by your decision. And that's the other thing about decision making. You can see this is a big topic for me is you make a decision. If it leads to a failure, you stand by your decision. That was a great decision. It didn't work out, but I'm happy I did it. This is what I learned, and this is how I'm going to move forward with it. There's no such thing as regrets. I shouldn't have done that, and now I can't trust my decision making. Nothing like that. No way.
How do you replenish and maintain that confidence? Because that is something that you mentioned a couple times before even talking about decision making, but I'm really hearing it when you're reflecting on, okay, we made a decision. It wasn't that it was a bad decision. It just didn't have the outcome that we wanted. How do you reinforce that? Because I imagine, you're having to make so many decisions on a daily basis, and it can probably be easy to look at some of the ones that haven't worked out. And, I think as entrepreneurs, especially, we tend to go for that. Oh yeah, 95% of the things were great, except this, one thing that I can't stop perseverating over. How do you release that?
Yeah, great question. So I think I referred to it earlier. It's having someone to talk to and having that outlet. It's sort of like therapy. You can't have it in your own head. And that's where people really suffer is they mull something over and they dwell on it in their own mind and they just suffer for it. And, if you let it out, like, okay, so that didn't work. What should we do differently next time? How do we learn from it? Really allowing yourself to process it so that you don't have essentially that PTSD from making that decision. Like, oh my gosh, am I going to fail again? You just let it out and move on. It's about being quick past it too. So let the next decision and the next move and the next point of action happen so quickly that decision you've already moved past that. You don't sit there and say, okay, now I'm going to take another week or 3 weeks or a month to figure out what I'm going to do next because that was such a huge fail. You say, that didn't work. What's the next step? So your mind doesn't have time to dwell. It's actually an action-oriented mindset where you're already taking the next step. And anytime you're taking action on something, it's so fulfilling. You feel like you're filling up, people call about your love tank, but you're filling up your entrepreneur tank. You're like, wow, I did something really great today. I'm really taking action. There's no time to dwell on the past. So being quick and being decisive and allowing yourself to process through those things very diligently lets them go, gets rid of them.
That's a great reminder to keep it moving. I love it. Speaking of keeping it moving, Erin, what is the most significant challenge you've faced so far, and what was it like to overcome it?
I mean, that first challenge that I referred to earlier, just about people not knowing what I should be doing and thinking I was going to be a failure from the get-go, like anthropology, good luck with that. That's like a non-major major. You have no practice. And then design, okay, you're going to be a design major, go sit behind a computer and not talk to anyone, which is opposite of my personality. So just that challenge of saying, all right, I have to just pause and not listen to other people. There's this book that I read to my child, my son, he's 5. It said, what do you do with an idea? And it's this great book that takes you through the path of other people might not like your idea and other people might think your idea is stupid or that your idea makes no sense. But if you hold on to your idea and your idea has meaning to you and you can feel that buzz and that energy that comes from the idea, then you hold on to the idea and it's your job to grow that idea. It's no one else's job to grow that idea. So the challenge of hearing people say that there's no future in that or that doesn't make sense or I don't know what that is just that's their thought and that's their relationship to their own life and their own ideas about what works and what doesn't. But the idea, I still hold it true to my heart that this is what's going to work for me. And so I focus on me and my idea and what I can turn it into. And so that's how I overcame that whole idea of, not knowing if this was going to work. And then the other challenge that was horrible for me is I left my consulting job and went internal to a company literally for 6 weeks. And it just turned into a nightmare. I was like, oh my gosh, why did I ever leave my amazing consulting job where I got to travel around the world and manage all these projects and work with incredible people for this internal position inside a company doing marketing? I thought it would be exciting to try another side. But, as I've been saying, true to this conversation we've been having, it only lasted 6 weeks. I knew it wasn't right for me. I left and I had a major stress moment of, do I apply for another job or do I start the business? And just based on the timing and the amount of work I had and the connections I had made, work experience I had and the amount of connections I had, I said, this is the time. So I'm going to put this behind me. I'm not going to dwell on the fact that I left that. And I'm going to see this as an opportunity. And it turned into a total opportunity to start my own business. So it's about not letting the outside impact you too much and turning those challenges into opportunities and going for it.
You have this great ability to listen to yourself and trust yourself and move forward. That's enough for you. Like, it sounds like you're encouraging that in others, that you don't have to worry about if it's enough for other people. You just have to worry about if it's enough for you. And that's enough to drive you.
Yeah, that's spot on. And that's one of those things I was saying earlier about the difference between freelance and running a business. So freelance, you get projects and we work with freelancers. We hire them to work on our projects. And the freelancers, they're amazing. They're super smart. They're super invested in the work that we do. And we love working with them, but they love having work show up and being able just to work on it. Whereas me and my business partner, we're still holding on to this idea that we want to have this company and be able to pay others and have our own clients, and holding on to that and trusting our gut and the decisions that we're making makes us feel good and feel empowered. And it's not for everyone. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to trust your gut and you have to move forward with the decisions and have faith in your decisions, whether they work out how you expected or not, and know that it was still a good decision. Whereas the people who like to freelance or just have that same freedom that you may get with your own business, it's just a different mindset and it's not for everyone. And that's how you get this great mix of people doing different types of things. And so, I have to always trust my gut. If you don't trust your gut, this would be really hard to do. It would be a major struggle.
On that topic, how do you and your business partner balance working on the business versus working in the business, as you're drawing that distinction between freelancing? Because obviously in the early days, I'm sure you, like most entrepreneurs, are probably doing a lot of it yourselves. How do you make that transition? And then how's it been managing other people, freelancers and contractors and such?
Yeah, I love this topic. This is probably something that my business partner and I talk about constantly. So exactly what you said, we started the business feeling like glorified freelancers because we would go get projects under the Ebco name as a company. And, we had filed our paperwork, so we were a real LLC. So we really were a company, but we're just going and getting projects and doing the work, literally traveling and doing all the research, all the business development, all of the writing and editing and designing. And it was insane. Because if you're not doing over 50% business development or business growth, then your business won't grow. Literally, it'll just stay flatline because you're doing too much work in the business. So what we've done is, and this is another thing you have to do as an entrepreneur, is you have to be willing to take a pay cut, use the money for investment. You have to be willing to not pocket everything you get. So you go and earn a $60,000 or $100,000 program. You don't say, wow, $100,000, that's enough for 1 year's salary. We're good. It's not like that at all. You say, okay, out of that 100,000, maybe we'll each take, let's say 10,000, and that can cover us for 3 months. Think about how low that salary might be early on when you're getting started, especially coming from a salaried position. And you can take that other 80,000 from that job, and now you can hire someone to actually run the project, the research. You can hire someone, an assistant, which we hired pretty early on, to book all of our travel and organize things. So it's about taking out the money as you can and having other people do things that you do not want to do. If it does not empower you, make you feel excited, does not inspire you to keep going, you should not be doing it. I have no satisfaction booking flights. I have no satisfaction sending out invoices. I have very limited satisfaction in editing Seriously, I don't like doing those things. I like talking with clients. I like giving presentations. I like overseeing other individuals. So those are the things that I stick to. My business partner loves traveling the world and investigating trends and coming up with really interesting ideas. She doesn't want to be managing a printing service who gets all these materials printed for a workshop and making sure that they're all shipped there on time. So you start to really pick apart what you're good at and what inspires you and what doesn't. And you need to get those other things resourced and paid for as soon as possible. And as soon as you do that, you open up the floodgates to doing business development and growing your business and thinking about new marketing and things that you want to involve yourself in. And it becomes so exciting again. And then the business grows. So it's about letting go of those financial resources and reinvesting them in the business and focusing on what your skill set and what inspires you and what you're really good at that will allow the business to grow. And you have to do that pretty early on. Otherwise, you just get in a tailspin of being a freelancer and working on project after project after project.
I really appreciate your energy as you're talking about this. You can tell that it's something that you're really passionate about, this type of investment. And you've shared some really great advice. Is there additional advice that you'd like to share with other millennials who are also on a path toward fulfillment and success in their own lives?
Yeah, I'm glad that you can sense my energy. And what you're sensing right now is the relief that me and my business partner felt when we figured that part out. When you go through the struggle of, well, I can type a bunch of emails. Why would I pay someone to do that? Or I can drive over there and pick up the printing. Why would I pay someone money when I have a car and I can go pick that stuff up? But it's that mindset that you have to just cut. You have to get rid of it. What hourly rate do I want? Do I want it to be $200 an hour, $500, $1,000 an hour? Okay. So let's say I want to make $1,000 an hour, right? Let's say that's my goal. That's great. Is it worth the hour it's going to take me to go to the printer and pick that stuff up and come back? Is that worth $1,000? No, absolutely not. So you go on TaskRabbit, you hire someone to go pick that stuff up and drop it off, and you pay $20. Okay. So it's $20 out of your pocket, but $20 for them. And I just spent an hour working on business development. So it's that relief that you're hearing in my voice when we figured it out, that it makes so much sense economically to pay other people who are slated for those tasks, who want to earn money that way, whether it's working in on the projects or doing some more peripheral administrative type tasks, and allowing us to thrive in our business. So the advice to anyone who's listening are just a few things. Be decisive. Take action immediately on a thought or a point of inspiration that you want to do, whether it's investigating it or reaching out to that client that you have always been hoping to get, or filing for your business license, whatever it is. Take action and do it now. Do not wait and contemplate, because you won't get anywhere. It's so much easier to course correct and do something differently than to have never started and not learned anything in the first place. The second bit of advice is do not do things that you hate, that stress you out, that are no fun, that you suck at, essentially, that take you 10 times as long as it would take someone who's good at it once you have some resources flowing. I know it's a hard one. That's a hard one to swallow because you need to survive. But if you can finagle it in interesting ways, you might have a family member or a sibling, an adult sibling, who's willing to stick things in the mail for you or order a bunch of supplies on Amazon. Just there's things that you can do that will save you time, that'll allow you to focus on the things that you're really good at. And then the third one is just getting out of your own head. Don't contemplate things. Go talk with someone else, figure out what your next step is, and don't dwell on, am I doing this right? Is it going in the right direction? And hold on to your idea. Your idea is great. If you're passionate about it and you're inspired to do it, you can make it happen. I mean, yes, there might be something out there that's similar to what you do, but I mean, for instance, in consulting and in training, I don't even remember the number, but like $70 billion or something is spent every year on outside vendor resources. I mean, I think that you could find a small chunk of that change and have a very nice lifestyle, even though there's other people doing that idea. So not everything has to be the next Uber or the next Amazon.com. There's ways to be an entrepreneur and live the lifestyle that you want and be very successful at it if you're passionate about your idea. So those are the main things I would focus on. And also, don't get caught up in the whole millennial thing. I think as millennials, we really suffer from this overanalyzation and perception of what we are and what we aren't. And people are so excited to say what millennials are like and why millennials are no good and how hard it is to work with millennials. And what they don't realize is millennials are grown-ups now. They see us as these perpetually young, party crazy people who are just getting out of college and finding our way and changing everything. But that's not true. Like, we're grown-ups now. We're buying houses, we're starting businesses, we have children. I mean, there's some younger ones too, but the really young ones, those are centennials. We can start analyzing them now. But millennials are the grown-ups, and we do all these things. So don't get caught up in what everyone's thinking you are or you're not. We can be, I guess this is very millennial to just say we can be whatever we want. And the resources are there to make it happen.
Erin, is there a book or a quote that's changed the direction of your life in some way?
Ooh, changed the direction of my life. That's pretty profound. I mean, there's definitely quotes. I studied philosophy and things like that in undergrad, and there were things that really impacted me. But I think as it relates to the entrepreneurial endeavors, I do like some of the things that Sophia Amoruso of Girl Boss has written. Now, she's an entrepreneur and she's made decisions that have not always led down the path that she wants. And she's a businesswoman. She takes those challenges head on, and they haven't always been successful, as we've seen a lot lately. But one thing that she quoted in her book was that Harvard Business School professor Howard Stevenson famously defined entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. And this is this idea that you have to take this spirit with you in whatever job you're doing and whatever project you're undertaking, and realize that no matter what resources currently look available, entrepreneurship is pursuing the opportunity no matter what. And that's really impactful to me as an entrepreneur, because you know what? I can't analyze what I'm going to be doing tomorrow or in a month or in a year based on my resources today. It's not about planning. It's not about knowing what's coming next. I don't know what project I'm going to win next week, if I'm going to have to hire someone else, if I'm going to have to steer resources in a different direction, if we're going to have to invest in something. It's not knowing and not being able to control the resources as they are now. And that's just getting that mindset right is really impactful. And then the other thing she wrote in her book, which you can hear through this whole interview, I agree with wholeheartedly, is it's the age-old concept that like attracts like, or the law of attraction. You get back what you put out. So you might as well think positively, focus on visualizing what you want instead of getting distracted by what you don't want, and send the universe your good intentions so that it can send them right back. And I know the universe thing, that can be really woo-woo to some people, but it's what I've been saying. You take action and you will be rewarded for it. It's action, action, action. Sitting there in this loose decision-making space is no good for being an entrepreneur. It's about taking action, and the law of attraction, it's going to send resources. It's going to send projects. It's going to send people. It's going to send connections. It's going to take care of itself, but it's up to you to take action and put the intentions out there.
Yeah, because it's not woo-woo, because your actions are what are helping make it manifest. And it's not like you're sitting in a room by yourself, not talking to anyone and not doing anything and just expecting it to come.
Yeah, I agree with you. People, for some reason, they feel like it sounds woo-woo, but I don't. It sounds super logical to me. I guess the woo-woo part is the people who think you just sit in a room and concentrate really hard. That does not work.
And what's your experience been working with other millennials? I mean, to your point, everyone is so unique, but sometimes just in overhearing people's conversations or doing consulting or coaching work, sometimes I definitely do see those, I don't want to say well, I guess they are stereotypes because they're not totally true, right? But this person wanted a promotion 6 months after they got to the business, or this person doesn't want to take any responsibility because they're clearly afraid to fail at anything. Have you had any experiences working with millennials? And if so, that maybe fit more of the stereotype? And if so, how have you managed them or coached them or helped them develop as people?
Yeah, I love this question because it's so funny to be like, oh, that person's acting like a millennial. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a millennial. They want to do everything on their own schedule from wherever. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I started a business. So it's been a really interesting perspective to see firsthand some of the challenges that people write about millennials come to fruition. And, it's part of growing up that you're like, wow, that might not work for a business that easily, to just let everything be a free-for-all. So we've tried to balance that. We've tried to do things that are super fun. If we go on a trend expedition in another country, for instance, we have this project to go study pasta in Italy for a week.
Amazing.
Which is, an amazing project. They're like, yeah, let us tell you the trends on pasta sauce. No problem. We'll go right to the source. Thanks. And then so balancing that with, okay, we want someone to come and work really hard and dig in and be client focused and, all of those type of guidelines that we require. But then, you know what? you're already there. Feel free to stay an extra 2 or 3 days. We've already flown you all the way out. We're covering the cost of your flight and most of the trip. You can take 3 days and go investigate on that space on your own, see what Italy's all about. So adding in fun to the various trips and the things that we're able to do is one way to tap into that fun and exploratory nature of a millennial who wants to see the world and things like that. And then we also work with people remotely. If we find someone who has an amazing skill set, great personality, ready to dig in, but they're in a completely different state, they have no intention of moving or being local to where our company is, then we go with that. We want to put skills first, inspiration first, the motivation of the individual first, if we can work that out. And we've had some really great success with people working remotely. It's taking on some challenges in terms of feedback and making sure that we check in enough and that the work is being developed in the way that we want without too much time going by just because you're not seeing that person in a workspace. But, we found ways to work that out. So it's the mix of using the tools at our disposal, but sticking to that. We want people with that rigor and that drive who are really going to work late and on the weekends, like a typical traditional consulting model, mixed with the fun and the remote access and things like that. So it's a balance, but there's just no way to run a business with it all being a free for all where everyone just chimes in whenever they want and we just have a bunch of parties. We haven't figured that one out yet.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for talking with us today. Would you please share with our audience where they can find you and your work online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us at theebco.com, THEEBCO.com, or you can connect with me or my business partner on LinkedIn. I'm Erin Mays, and she's Kaylin Rosansky. You can find us there. As far as social media goes, we're not in that space right now. We're not tweeting, and we don't have a Facebook page or anything like that. We haven't really found a need yet, but maybe we'll have some inspirational millennial tell us we have to do it, and we'll go that.
Inevitably you will.
Yeah, you never know.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been a giant wisdom bomb today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm feeling super energized to go take decisive action immediately after we finish talking.
That's awesome. Yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed speaking with both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yo, what is up, motivational millennial listeners? I am so excited to share with you that I'm going to be featured on a Creative Courage Summit, which launches on April 17th. It's all about unleashing your creative potential, finding your purpose, and creating the world that you want. There's some amazing other presenters, including David Allen, whose book Getting Things Done, aka GTD, is one of my jam go-to productivity books. There's also our friend Rochelle Sheik, who is the Koya founder, and a bunch of other dope millennial creatives, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. So you can check it out at creativecouragesummit.live. That's creativecouragesummit.live. On April 17th, they're launching a couple videos a day, and you can see me not only talk about radical acceptance and how it relates to getting in a flow state through freestyle, but also do a really cool exercise that I've seen transform so many young people's lives, and it's using metaphor, and I think it really makes a strong impact for anybody. So check it out, April 17th. Peace and love. Hello, welcome to the after show of our conversation with Erin Mays.
She's a powerhouse.
She is. I was feeling the funnel of energy just flowing full power the whole time.
Fantastic.
Feel the funnel. Oh, it was great. I really loved her discussions about decisiveness. And it made me think while she was talking about how much decisiveness is about staying present. What is in front of me right now? Make a decision about it. I think, as she discussed, when we get in our head is when we're focused on the past. Oh, why didn't that work out? Oh, why was I not good enough to win that particular project? And the future is all about the worry. Oh, what if this isn't good enough? Oh, what if this doesn't work? Oh, what if I'm a failure? What if people don't like me? And so that also is paralyzing, because then we either procrastinate because we don't want to start working on it because then we might fail once we start, or we are just afraid to really invest in whatever thing we're working on because, I don't want to give it my all because then what if I do all the hardest work and then it still fails and then I'll really know I wasn't good enough? So I think there are a lot of different ways that lack of decisiveness, indecisiveness, in fact, if we're not being present, which I will be the first to raise both my hands, which you can't see because it's a podcast, but I'm raising them and waving them.
You're flailing them madly.
That's right. I'm raising all my hands to say I am super guilty of that, especially historically. I've been trying to be more conscious about it now because I think one of the things that brings us back to the present is just the reminder that we are present, like whenever we start spiraling or worrying about the past or the future, sometimes just recognizing, oh, right, I'm a body here right now, can sometimes help spark the what's right in front of me. So how do you feel about decisiveness?
Well, when she was talking about it, it felt really easy. And I remember thinking that I love that for her, legitimately. Like, I love that she has found the habit and practice of doing that. And it was really inspiring because I can think of moments where I've felt that way. I can think of zones that I've been in or days that I've had that were just cranking stuff out. And there's something really powerful and relaxing about it. It's relaxing because the decisiveness is instantaneous.
That's right.
Even with emails, I used to be so concerned about what my email said. Like, the structure, is this too many exclamation points? Not enough exclamation points. Should this comma be here? And it was so absurd because I was using too much of my mental energy and time because I was really concerned about how that other person was going to perceive what I wrote.
That's right.
And I still make an effort to say, thank you, exclamation point, so that I don't like to come off as curt in my emails, personally. Like, that's just not accurate to my personality. I mean, I'm still aware of that, but I don't have to write this whole thing. I'm just like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Send, Like, I don't have to be like, yes, I really appreciate that, and it really keeps things moving. And it's actually a lot more freeing. I think of when I have a very serious deadline or a very clear deadline that's like, right now, I'm planning to go out of the country for celebrating many a things, and I'm really excited about it. I've never done it before, but I have this huge list of things to do. I don't have time to ponder. It's just like, okay, this is what needs to be done. It's like, I really don't want to have to call AT&T, and I'm like, oh, well, I just have to do it. Like, I just need to do it. Done. Go.
Yeah. What's that line? There's nothing quite so inspiring as a deadline that's a little too close for comfort or something like that.
Yeah, but how do you get into that flow regularly? And again, I think there's something about the faith piece because she really mentioned that in, various ways, the faith piece about like believing that it's going to work out. So to your point about being worried about putting so much effort in and then it's not going to work out anyway. And there's something about just releasing that attachment to the outcome, knowing that whatever outcomes happens is the right outcome, that I think is the key behind sustaining that as a practice.
Yeah, and she mentioned that that's their philosophy in their business.
This is what, yeah.
It's like, it's about the process. It's about continuously taking actions. She's got her 10 list of business development actions every day. And as long as they're spending a certain amount of time on that, then whatever the outcomes are, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think that that's really wonderful. And it sounds like, when I say it sounds easy, I just think that it sounds peaceful, especially doing entrepreneurial work. That feels like the holy grail, kind of, peaceful production.
Yeah, well, and you're right when you say, think about a time when you were just making decisions nonstop. And you're right, it wasn't exhausting. There's sometimes this idea that like, oh, if I'm constantly taking action and it's going to be tiring. But it's the exact opposite what you said, because the tiring thing is contemplating and worrying and mentally debating about it. But when you're just taking the decisions, you're in the flow state. You are saying, okay, this is what I'm doing next. And is it the best thing? Or it doesn't matter right now. It's the thing I'm going to do next. And
done is better than perfect.
That's right. Done is better than perfect. Over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great reminder.
So the thing that popped out for me was similar to this faith idea, but she was talking about how the path isn't linear. And it's so interesting. Something clicked. It's not like I haven't seen the comic depictions of like the path that you think it's going to be. It's like this perfect up straight, and then like the actual path, and it's got these, you know, pits with crocodiles in it, and then you have to like climb across it's all of these crazy things. So something about listening to her, the conversation we were having, you know how this can go, but it just triggered something in my mind where we have talked to now well over 40 people and heard about their different journeys and their different paths. And while there are some similarities, they're all really different, because the challenges happened in different times or in different ways, and their breakthroughs happened at different times in their life and in different ways and mean different things. And I think we get into a habit as a culture of believing that the path is going to be linear, and that therefore you can somehow compare yourself reasonably to other people's paths. Because, you know, if you're listening to someone like, oh, they were successful at 16, I'm 36, it's not even relevant, because you can't know what your path is going to be.
Yeah, especially about timing, right?
Right.
And especially around age. I'm too young, I'm too old.
I mean,
like,
I think, like, when we went to school, it was very clear. They made everything seem very linear, even though in a lot of ways it isn't, because every person learns differently and experiences life differently, but they make it seem like it is, because it's like, here, you are either A, B, C, D, you know, you were either front of the class or back of the class in terms of, you know, your grades, and you finish English 1, then you go to English 2, then you go to English 3, like, and it feels very linear. And in your mind, sort of gauge, okay, I'm doing pretty well right now, because compared to so-and-so and so-and-so, or I'm third in the class, I'm doing really well. But in actual life, particularly when you're going on paths that are non-traditional, there is no way to compare. And so that is information that for me, like when she said that, it felt like a huge epiphany, because that's how I've navigated life, is by comparison, you know? Like I've navigated, I know that if I excel at least this much and a little bit more, like people are going to know that I work hard. People are going to know that I'm reliable. But in reality, in the work that we're doing, like I have to totally shift and release that and go into this zone that she was talking about, which is not focusing on outcomes.
Yeah. And I think people use a lot of different proxies for that. They try, right? Like how much money you make, or how many social media likes or follows.
Yes,
like
everything.
There's definitely an attempt to quantify that. And you're right. In some professions there are, like in government jobs, for example, or in some medical professions, there's a certain institutional trajectory.
Yeah, like in higher ed, the path that I thought I was going to take. It doesn't matter how much you see. Like right now, if I spend 6 years building this business, and then if I were to go, okay, now I'm going to go back in higher ed, I would be at the bottom of the rung, most likely. I would start out as like an entry level, you know, program assistant or whatever, depending on the institution, and that would be how it goes. And then you're like, okay, now you can either move up or move laterally or whatever. Like it's very specific.
Yeah, but you're right. And if you think about it, the rest of our lives, even if you are in an institutional setting like that, the rest of your life isn't quantifiable that way. And certainly, like you said, if you're on a non-traditional path, and that's hard to adjust to when you've just spent 12 years of education or 16 years of education.
Or more. I mean,
you know.
12, you know, I was a super senior, being that undergrad for 5 years, plus 2, yes, that's 19 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I
crazy.
can't do math. That's right. I was thinking.
It's so many,
You're
know.
right. 16 is just undergrad. Oh my gosh. I know. I did a lot.
And then I guess
too.
if you count kindergarten, it's 20. But anyway, I'm just saying, yeah, there's something about releasing then. You really have to release anything external. You really have to release comparing to anything external at all, because it's totally pointless in a lot of ways. To her point, it's about how much effort you're putting in, and if you get too caught up on the way things look, whether they're successful or not successful, quote unquote, in your mind, then you're not going to be taking the appropriate action, because you're going to freak yourself out and you're not going to be present anymore.
That's right.
Know? And so how to readjust to just really saying, this day was an accomplishment from my perspective and not... I mean, that's...
You have to define your own success.
Interesting. It just something about that clicked. I'm like, what's the point of comparing then if literally every single trajectory you cannot predict and you cannot have as linear, then there's no logical reason to be comparing yourself to anyone else. Yeah,
and Erin's biography is a real testament to that because she had the anthropology background. She had the design background. And those have all shaped her, but if you would ask her at the time, I'm sure she had very little idea. I mean, maybe, a dream or a concept of where it could go, but certainly not that she would be working, at this job and then this job and then go off and form Ebco and raise a family and all this stuff. And so I think it's really inspiring to hear her journey and where she has come and to take inspiration from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely feel inspired in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hope you do as well, our awesome podcast listeners. And thank you to Erin for rocking with us on a really inspiring show. And we look forward to catching all of you next week.
See you on the flip side.
For show notes and upcoming guests, or to learn more about Coactive Coaching, the blog, and our other awesome offerings, visit motivationalmillennial.com. Keep in touch with us at facebook.com/motivationalmillennial.
We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email with your thoughts, comments, and suggestions at podcast@motivationalmillennial.com. And tell us who you might like to hear from, or if you think you or anyone you know would be good for the show.
The Motivational Millennial Podcast is edited by Christy Hostler and Team Podcast.
Our theme music was composed and performed by Blake Brandis.
Have a great week, Motivational Millennials!